The 92.5 XTU X Lounge, powered by Mealey's Furniture. The styles you love for less.
I am Razz on the radio on 92.5 XTU, and this is the 92.5 XTU Mealey's Furniture, the styles you love for less, X Lounge. And Jillian Jacqueline is here, and we're going to spend a couple of minutes talking about who you are and where you're from. Now, I know you're from this area, Chester Springs, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah. This
and
is
you grew
my
up
hometown
listening
station.
to the radio station. Talk to us about that.
I mean, 92.5 was the station of my childhood. Every single country song I ever learned was because of you guys. So
well, we're glad to be
awesome.
Giving you your musical education.
Yeah, I mean, you played all my favorite songs growing up, and when I heard we were coming back here, I kind of freaked out a little bit. It feels so full circle to have grown up here and listened to it in the car my whole life, and now I get to hang out with you guys.
Well, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you so much.
So tell us about, so you're growing up in Chester Springs. Now, Chester Springs, if I'm not mistaken, that's right on the border of Delaware, correct? That's right down there in like mushroom country, like that whole area right there?
Well, do you know like Exton or Westchester?
Yeah,
it's like 15 minutes from
So years
from
ago, if you go and you get the history of country music book that has Johnny Cash on the cover, you'll find posters in there years ago of like Earl Scruggs coming to Chester Springs to do like these big bluegrass festivals. Yeah. And they used to do those big traveling groups that used to come through. Chester Springs was like a hotbed for that.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, they definitely stopped doing that when I was there because no country music was coming through my town.
So you had to come see us.
Yeah, I mean, my sisters and I were the only kids in our neighborhood that listened to country. We were definitely sort of the weirdos of the town, but
so I mean, weird.
No, well, I'm not weird now because everybody listens to it now. But yeah, it was. We started a trend in Chester Springs.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Very there's a little bit of history there, so
that's very
it'd be cool for you to go look it up.
So cool. Yeah.
So now you're growing up there, and then you moved to New York young, though. So how did you convince your parents to let you do that?
Well, I didn't have to convince them. My mom was dying to move to New York City, and she brought me there when I did a Broadway play with Kenny Rogers. So we initially went to do the show with him and like rented an apartment, and then after that, my mom was like, "We've got to get back there." So we moved there when I was 13. I have 3 sisters. We all moved up there with my parents, got an apartment in Soho, and started playing shows in New York City as a 4-sister country band. It went. As you can imagine, it went.
It's hard. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
Yeah, well, we weren't selling many tickets wearing like cowboy hats playing these dive bars in Greenwich Village. So, yeah, we started going to Nashville and meeting with people down there pretty soon after that, which was definitely more productive for us. Cowboy in Soho. Yeah. Yeah, we were definitely sticking out like a sore thumb. Yeah. But you're right. It's like if you can kind of cut your teeth there, you can kind of make it anywhere. So it was good practice.
So when you went to Nashville and you started to do did your sisters go too?
Yeah, okay, actually, they went before I did. I left to go to college here, right at Philly U. So I left the band, went to college, and they moved to Nashville without me. They got a record deal at Sony, and when I first got to Nashville, like to move there, they were all on their radio tour. So I was like the other sister that nobody knew.
What about me?
What about me? Yeah, and I just, I was waitressing and bartending and babysitting and trying to do whatever I could to pay my bills so I could write songs and, just sort of hoping for the next step to come. And
did the shows change, though, when you went from doing bars in Soho, New York City, when you think, wow, it's New York City, like just walk-ins are going to be huge. Yeah. And then you said it didn't go so well. So when you go to Nashville, does it change for you?
Well, Nashville's just a whole different ballgame. I mean, you go there and it's like, I call it the blank slate because, whatever you've done before, Nashville sort of gets wiped out and you start over and you have to pay your dues and they call it a 10-year town for a reason. And so, I mean, in some ways, the roughness of New York prepared me for just like, well, if nobody shows up, I don't really care. I'm going to play my show anyway. But I think Nashville allows definitely for more room for like building a community of people around you. Right. New York is like everybody's already got their clique, and Nashville's like, oh yeah, you can be our friend, like come and hang out with us. So I appreciated that about it.
So you worked with Kenny Rogers, which if you read anybody that's anybody in country music, that man, just being in his presence alone takes you to another level.
Yes, it does.
Did you have spend time with him about songwriting or singing or anything, or did
I mean
just
everything?
Perform?
Yeah, I mean we were good friends. Our families were very good friends for all those years. I toured with him for 5 years, so he became like my pseudo grandfather. Both my grandfathers had passed, and so he was a huge influence in my life, a huge mentor, and he's not so much like a he doesn't preach when he talks, but if you just listen to him, he carries these, everything he says is like words of wisdom, you know? Right. And he always used to say this one thing in particular that stuck with me, and it was like, a great artist is who they think they are, who the audience thinks they are, and who they really are is all the same person. So, you know, sort of this transparent, honest sense of self. So I carried that with me forever.
And then later, I've read you started working with Vince Gill.
Yeah.
Which is also, I can't think of two better mentors in country music than probably the greatest vocalist in country music and then the greatest guitar player vocalist in country music. Yeah. So that's amazing.
Kenny is a pretty good guitar player, huh? I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
For a second there, I went, wait a minute, did I not know my Kenny Rogers there for a second? Yeah, he just really played that much. I knew you were talking about Vince.
No, Vince was sort of a fluke thing that happened. I was working with Richard Marx, who's a pop
we know Richard
songwriter,
Marx.
Producer, and Richard and Vince are really good friends. And so Richard brought me in to write with them, and I was so nervous, but we hit it off. Vince is just completely down to earth and humble, as I'm sure you know. And we ended up writing a song that got onto his record. And then he sang on my song Overdue that Richard was producing, and he's just one of those artists that teaches you that ego does not have to be involved. You know, to be great, you don't have to have a huge ego, and he really doesn't. He's so humble. So
yes, he is.
Yeah.
Now, did he give you a guitar lesson or no?
God, no. I wouldn't even go there with him.
No?
He's too good. Yeah.
He is really
He's
good.
like a guitar player's guitar player. You know, he's so tasteful,
absolutely.
and he's great. Yeah.
So welcome home, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you so much.
So pick the Super Bowl champion.
Oh, God. Man, football is like Chinese to me. So my dad would be so ashamed, but I really
easy answer. There's one answer. Jillian, there's one answer here in Philadelphia at 92.5 XTU.
I'm going to go with the Eagles. How about that?
Excellent answer. Yay.
Go Eagles, go. Yes.
Well, welcome, and we're going to do a performance here in just a minute, but thank you for stopping in
Appreciate
here
it.
and talking with us here at the 92.5 XTU. Mealey's Furniture, the styles you love for less. X Lounge.